a lot of men are spending many years resisting unpleasant emotion, and which often stems from fear. And so that energy, that frequency gets stuck in the human body, in the nervous system. And over when someone is living by the hormones of stress, which is what fear is, he will begin to develop cardiovascular issues. He will have poor sleep, may or may not. These are all the typical side effects.
Hi, Kathleen. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. You're very interesting, intriguing, and very talented. And I'm very curious about your skill sets because you are a neuroplastic expert and you specifically help men who are struggling to manage stress and anxiety. Tell me a little bit about how you got into this.
Well, so the extract version, right? A lot of early hospitalizations as a child, I developed quite severe anxiety and panic disorder in my early 20s. And I wasn't raised in an environment that was terribly big on pharmaceuticals. And I was raised in a pretty integrative, holistic environment. And so I then turned to meditation, and I had already learned about neuro early on in life as a way to rewire certain learning challenges that I had as a student. And so when I went into this practice of deep meditation, bringing in what I would call frequency, right? Energy is frequency. And as we know, everything is energy. I'm energy, you're energy, the objects in your room are energy, everything is energy. And so when we're dealing with something like chronic stress and anxiety, which is an energy, we want to heal through energy. So I happened upon a powerful form of meditation and healing through what you might say divine frequency, elevated frequency, and a spiritual component, right? And so after about 6 or 8 weeks of doing this inward meditation every day, I just happened to heal. It was just gone. It was gone. And I still have mild, like one thing might come up, you might feel a little stressed, but you have the tools and you can mitigate it. So then I dove into this world of neuroplastic meditation and frequency, energy healing. But I came at it from a very kind of scientific understanding and began to learn a lot about the neuroscience and the biology of stress in the body and how you can heal it through your intention alone. And you can heal it through choosing to have different emotional experiences. So to wrap it up, I started my company Presense. I developed a method called Presensing, and I began working with men specifically because within the space of self-development, inner health, inner transformation, there's so little for men. There's so little for men. And really a lot of guys not everyone, this is changing and it changes from culture to culture, but a lot of guys who I work with, they are taught at a very early age just not to feel anything, to resist, and to feel comes with various stigmas. And so I teach men how to process emotion. And what is emotion? It's energy. It's energy in motion. That's what emotion is. So it's not something to be afraid of at all. It's not something one needs to resist. It's a part of being a human being. And so a lot of men are spending many years resisting unpleasant emotion, and which often stems from fear. And so that energy, that frequency gets stuck in the human body, in the nervous system. And over when someone is living by the hormones of stress, which is what fear is, he will begin to develop cardiovascular issues. He will have poor sleep, may or may not. These are all the typical side effects. He might develop pretty severe stress patterns. He might develop overuse of substances. And then in worst case scenarios, high suicide rates among men, particularly in that midlife period. So that was my reasoning. And I'm deeply passionate about working with people who are not speaking about the problem. And men tend to very classically, they hold their challenges within, they're very silent, and they won't talk about it until it's too late. Or
Yeah. No, I deeply resonate with this because not only as a man, I have faced this at various levels in my life, at various different types of intensity. But also, I know a lot of men who are struggling at various capacities. And like you said, based on the cultural differences and the time and the age of the person, some men are more prone or open or at least willing to have a conversation about it, and some just aren't. So, what is it that you usually start out with when you find somebody or who are choosing to come to work with you? What is some of the first steps that you take to help them?
yeah, so the typically the two classic motives that I see are related to health or related to happiness, right? Relationships. And so there might be an unpleasant report from a doctor, there might be poor sleep, there might be various health related aspects. And then relationship wise, typically challenges being present with their children, eruptive arguments, that kind of. So he and I will sit down and actually we recently released a new application. So a lot of clients are moving into the app and just taking the courses, and then we do group-based support. But he will embark on an 8-week journey, an 8-week process, whereby the first month is about him educating his nervous system, because the language, so you have the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is where all those innate habits, those autopilot habits become formed and where they live. And so chronic stress being an autopilot habit. And so he will need to speak the language of the body. The body is the subconscious mind. The language of the body is feeling.
What does that mean? Re-educating the nervous system, learning how to speak the language of the body.
That means think about the nervous system like a violin or a tuning fork. It is tuned through frequency, and frequency is emotion. When he is learning how to transition away from fear and stress and all the emotions associated with the fear spectrum, he will need to learn new emotions. And it's not so much a learning of new emotions, it's more of a recall and then feeding those new emotional states. That would be the frequency of peace, right? The frequency of calm, the frequency of protection, of safety. And you can tune in, you could, in this very moment, you could tune into how anger feels in the body. And you can sense how that frequency is very disruptive. It's very incoherent. It's very inharmonious. And then you could tune into love, right? Love is the greatest. It's the multivitamin. So you could tune into love as a frequency, as a feeling. And you can feel how that's relaxing, how that's opening, how that's soothing, how that's calming. And this is all information for the nervous system. So when I talk about recalibrating the autonomic nervous system and healing chronic stress as a pattern, it's extremely simple. It's not easy. Takes a lot of time and investment and trade-offs of priorities for those 8 weeks. But so when you're tuning in 3 30-minute segments a day, you're tuning into the feeling of love, peace, of calm, safety, protection. So then soon enough, the nervous system gets it, that this is what we want to feed with our attention, because where your attention goes is where your energy flows. So whatever you put your attention on, you feed and it grows. The use it or lose it idea. So then the second month is about building new neural circuitry in the brain that says, like a bit like Pavlov's dog, the stimulus could be a current argument with your spouse that used to activate the stress response. But now, through that incredible capacity that human beings have to rehearse through imagination, inwardly, mentally, I am now rehearsing that when that argument arises, I feel completely calm. I feel completely at peace and relaxed and safe. And it's gone.
Wow.
It's all
Wow.
about repetition. Yeah.
So You brought up a great point, which is exactly what I was going to ask. That while it might be possible to attain a certain level of peace and calm and love in a moment, there are so many things happening in our lives every day that kind of yanks us out of it. For a man that has been conditioned to act and feel a certain way for a number of years before they find you, that unconditioning or reconditioning takes a lot of time. What are some of the most common struggles that you feel that you have seen that most men run into when they're doing this reconditioning?
Two things. One, it doesn't take as much time as you might think. And the reason for that is because meditation allows you to go into a certain brainwave state called theta, where your subconscious mind is completely open and receptive to new programming. You alter your state of consciousness, and that allows for really rapid rewiring. But the classic challenges are, my wife and I, we have a child on the way or a second child on the way. I have had this uncontrollable anger problem for 5 or 8 years, and I don't want my children to be exposed to that. Let's heal the stress response so that I can feel calm in difficult situations. And your outer environment is a direct mirror of your inner environment. So if you are chaotic and stressed inwardly, or you're ruminate, or whatever thought energy forms you're feeding, that's your inner environment, and your outer environment will reflect it. Absolutely. Other examples would be I can't sleep and I'm overweight. And I know it's because there are so many factors in my daily life coming at me. I'm needed from many directions. You probably know what that's. I have a family, I've got aging in-laws, I've got my work. I'm needed from 1,000 directions, and there's no peace. There's no silence. There's no quiet. And so half the solution in that situation is me just giving them permission to carve out time for themselves. They can say, hey, I invested in this program. In order for me to do well in this program for the next 8 weeks, I need to have 30 minutes 3 times a day. Here's the do not disturb sign. So there's so many. Yeah. Or my doctor said I have really high blood pressure and I have a lot of tightness and pain in different parts of my body. And I've seen clients in one meditation, sciatica disappears because a lot of it is rooted in just disconnection from the body. Bring a little loving awareness to that area and it's gone.
Do you think it's the natural adulting process through which we lose this connection with our body? As in, do you think that we have it intrinsically within us when we are children?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's looking at it from more of an expanded perspective. Why are we here? Why are we here on this beautiful planet? We're here to learn and grow. And so would you walk into a gym? Would you go to a cross space and sit around and not lift any weights and not do anything? No. And so that's how you grow, and through discomfort, through pain. And so we have to forget. And we have to identify with the physical world and all the problems that come along with it in order to have something to say no to. A place of duality, of polarity. We need the dark with the light to choose. And it's that choice that allows the individual to grow and learn.
I'm a dad. I have a young boy who's going to grow up to be a man in a good few years, right? And I'm talking to you and I'm thinking everything that you say is true, because not only I see it in men who are my friends and family members around me, but I also see it in myself. So now I'm wondering, what are some steps that I could take now to perhaps ensure that my son doesn't end up there? What are some things we could be doing as parents right now?
So 2 things. One, let me emphasize, gentlemen, that what I am not saying is that I'm not trying to feminize anyone. You're not going to go sit in a chair and weep and weep. Simply, I just like you manage your attention, just like you practice at a certain athletic endeavor, just like you manage anything in your life, you can manage your emotion, you can process it because it's only energy. And here's a very simple exercise. For one, starting with the understanding that all energy is life force energy. right? There's only one energy, and it's life force energy. And that's what created you and I, and that's what keeps us going. And so it's our beliefs, our perceptions that we have that actually color the life force energy that moves through the body and puts it into negative and positive categories. When we judge an energy, a feeling, okay, so let's now shift to the term feeling. When we judge a feeling as negative or positive, we lock it into the body because we innately want to either resist or attach. An example could be when you were in love the first time, you didn't want it to end, you wanted to attach to the feeling. And then you can think about a negative experience where you felt very hurt and you wanted to run away and push that. So you have those two choices. They're very ingrained. Now, the idea, the process is becoming aware when an energy is coming up in your body and you're beginning to color it one way or the other. We'll say red or green, right? Red for negative, green for positive. So what you can do is, let's make this bite size. So there's a pattern, okay? Everybody's got a pattern they want to change, right? It's a thinking, feeling pattern where someone bothers you or you have a justification for a certain kind of behavior that you want to change. So become aware of the pattern. What are the thoughts? Use a pen and paper. What are the thoughts? What are the feelings? And you can do this with young children just through conversation. What are you thinking? How do you feel? And then simply choosing a different elevated emotion. So it's a 3-step process. So you're aware of what you're feeling and thinking and that you want to change it. You know how it feels in your body when that energy comes up. Then you have to pause. If you don't pause, then it keeps running on. So it comes up, that stimulus comes up. Okay, you can feel the reaction. You pause, you welcome that energy, you receive that energy intentionally, and you can have fun with this. Sometimes I'll imagine my living room and I welcome the energy in, have a seat. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And then just receive it, just welcome it. And that allows that emotion to move up and out of the body. If you resist it, you lock it in place and it'll come back 2-fold, 3-fold, more and more over time. Receive it, welcome it, and then just choose a new state of being, right? Who is this person I'd rather be? I'd rather respond to this situation with calm, or I'd rather respond to the situation with understanding, or whatever that is. And so then move into that frequency, because there's a frequency for every thought. And you do that enough times, and then the old program goes away.
So many times I logically know what I need to do or what I shouldn't do. I logically know how I should feel, but emotionally, I can't get myself there. It could be somebody listening to it, they're at work and they know when their boss approaches them, they tense up and they get stressed out because of prior experiences. And they know logically they shouldn't allow their boss to get to them like that, but emotionally, they cannot. So that's the beginning phase. And then towards the end phase, you're saying that they have gone through this process long enough that now this becomes the new version of them. They have rewired their nervous system in a way so they don't. But what is that transition phase like, especially towards the beginning? Because I would imagine there would be so much frustration, right? Because there's this conflict of what I should do. And I know I shouldn't do it, but I learned this new thing from my new coach, Kathleen, and I can't apply it. And maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe it's not for me. Like, how do you cope with that?
It's simple, but not easy. It is. So I play a little game with my clients where I call it the change game. And how many times did you interrupt that stress pattern and say change? Each time you did it, you get a point. So you make it fun, you make it a game. But it does, my answer to that question is twofold. One, there's a lot of men and women, a lot of men try to fix emotional problems through thinking, but it will not work. You have to use frequency. You have to use emotion, feeling, sensing, energy. You have to go into the body. So when the most challenging month, or the most challenging process is that first month. And what I say is, even if you don't successfully play the change game perfectly, let's say you get a 70% on the change game. If you do your meditations every single day, 3 times a day, the nervous system has no choice but to relax and assimilate to the learned feeling of calm, right? We'll use calm as an example, peace. So if you do this, if you stay there long enough with the body and you activate that peaceful feeling throughout your mind, throughout your body, your body has no choice but to acquiesce. In the same way that you created the chronic stress response, you're doing the exact same thing, but in a positive direction. Yeah. So it is challenging that first month. No doubt. It's a constant whoop, don't go left, go right, whoop, don't go left, go right, whoop, don't go. Oh my God, how many times?
Especially when you said men only process emotions through their mind logically. I was like, how else do you process it? Yeah, like I only know how to skin the cat one way. The only tool I have is a hammer and everything is a nail. So you talked about meditation, and there are many forms of meditation. So what is the specific form of meditation that you practice with your clients?
Presensing is a method I created, and it's basically threefold. And each meditation is essentially predicated off of this framework. Step one, move your brain and body into what's called theta brainwave state. How do you do that? Through breathing. I bring in music, a lot of visualization, move the body. It's that state that we fall into every night just before drifting off to sleep, where it's like, oh, you're not quite in the land of lollipops or whatever. So move into that state. And it is in that state where it becomes extremely easy and powerful to change the information in the body. Then we go into what's called heart-centered coherence. So now this kind of opens up another thing. I won't spend too much time on it, but the heart rate variability is a very effective way to measure your level of stress. So the heart actually is packed with neurons identical to what you'd find in the brain. So the heart is a mind, it's an intelligence, it's a brain. And the heart actually informs the brain a lot more than the brain informs the heart. So a lot of men live, I would define anxiety as living in separation from the heart. Now, through breath and through various practices that I bring into my meditation, men are actually lowering their blood pressure. They're increasing the health of the heart because they're stabilizing the heart rate variability. You don't need any medication for this. It's all within your own capacity. We allocate a certain portion of the meditation to heart-centered breathing and elevating the energy, the frequency of the heart. And so once the heart rate variability is stabilized, you're going to see waves like this. When it's in red zone, in stress zone, waves like that. So it's very inharmonious. And so that's the second stage. The third stage is tuning into frequency, tuning in. You move into that great, giant, beautiful space that is pure consciousness, where you detach from the physical environment. All the things that would give you stress, all the things that would activate that response, detach from it. And what you're doing there is you're turning off a certain portion of your brain that kind of runs on automatic, looking for problems, looking for challenges in the environment. And yeah, and so that's really the essence of it.
What does the detachment process look like? Let's say I am somebody who's completely unable to shut my mind off. I'm trying to go to bed and I'm constantly thinking of all these crazy things, right? And what would that detachment process actually entail?
So scientists have found a sure and fast, and it is to do with sensing space.
Sensing space.
Sensing the space around your body, sensing the space that your head takes up, sensing the space. You can do it with your eyes open. I do it all the time. Sensing the space between two objects, empty space. So you're literally emptying yourself. You're focusing on nothing in no time, no where, no body, no one. You're removing all the physical senses, right? When you're walking around in the three-dimensional world, you have a sense of time, you have a sense of body, you have a sense of place, you have a sense of identity, personality. So you strip all of that. And you do that by becoming aware of space, infinite, vast space.
So the meditation that you ask your clients to do 3 times a day, most people, when they think of meditation, they think of sitting in a quiet room with your sitting in a lotus position, pin drop silence. For the average person who's going to work and running around doing things, what are the practicalities of how this meditation can be done? Is it something you can just do on the fly? What environment does one need to practice it?
I always recommend that there's one other piece I wanted to add to the last bit. Also sensing volume and also sensing distance. That's also a big piece of going into. But for clients, I ask them to, if they have noise cancellation headphones, use them. Because I also bring in certain meditation music that has certain vibrations, certain tones that are conducive to dropping into theta state. So there's music. Get your big clunky noise cancellation headphones. And I also have them wear eye shades to block the visual sense. So it allows them to move deeper within. And I really recommend establishing a routine. In the morning, you have one place you go to where you meditate every morning. In the afternoon, you can do it in the car, not while you're driving.
Then we have a new problem.
Yes, if you need to take a little lunch break or what have you. And they love it. They love it. Think about it. There's all this noise, just 30 minutes to go within and complete restorative. It's like a reset for the nervous system. And then at night, I say, if you can, go back to that same place where you went in the morning. And some clients travel a lot for work. It is what it is. You just bring your favorite cushion or something and create a space wherever you go. But yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I was doing some research on you and I read something where you talked about you help elevate consciousness in men through emotional well-being and vitality and all of that. But one thing that resonated with me was you said you create a love for life within them. And
They
that
I give them
really,
the tools. I
yeah,
said
but
they do. I give them the tools. Yeah.
there's deep meaning in that. And it really stuck with me. And I wanted to ask you about it because, in a way, a lot of men are living a life of a quiet desperation, right? When they come to you, the current state that they're in, where it's stress and fatigue and anxiety, and I'm going to support my family, or I'm going to get a promotion, or whatever trauma they've gone through, what does it look like at the end when they have found a love for life, this enhanced way of being?
Yeah. Gosh, at the very end, and this is what feeds my heart and soul. This is the fuel in my tank, is when I see a client who has moved from that state of poor longevity, burdens, all of that stuff deteriorates. It breaks down your body, it shortens your life. And so he's moved from that state of survival into the state of great exuberance and gratitude. Gosh, what does it look like? I have tons of testimonials, but what one client says, I haven't felt this happy in 20 years. I haven't felt this joyful as I'm driving along the freeway and I see the blueness of the skies. There's a description of the colors around them being much brighter. I haven't felt totally present and one with the experiences of my children as we're together in a park, as we're together on vacation, whatever that is. I haven't felt this grateful for simple things. I haven't felt this grateful and this tuned in to the present as I eat this meal with my family or as I eat this meal alone and it's a feeling. Again, I can try to use words to describe it, but it's ultimately a feeling of just loving existing, loving being in this human form and the environment around. Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible because, especially, you are working with your clients to be able to achieve this in 8 weeks. And we're talking about men who have been suffering with this and haven't taken care of themselves for decades. So, how does one find you, Kathleen? If somebody is into this and they're like, this is what I need because this is what I'm missing, how does one find you and work with you?
Yeah, go to my YouTube channel. I've got lots of free practices there. You can start experiencing what I'm talking about in bite-sized pieces. And then from there, the YouTube is linked to the application, my new app that I released. And then on there are free courses, there are paid courses. different levels of growth, and you'll always begin with moving your body and brain out of survival. You'll always start with rewiring the chronic stress response so that you're flourishing, so that you're loving life, so that you're at peace. And so, yeah, that's how I would recommend.
Love it. And your YouTube channel is your name?
It's at Presensing,
Presensing.
Resensing.
Kathleen, I can tell you this. I talk to a lot of people, but not a lot of people have the energy and the presence that you have. There is a sense of calmness that you bring to even a simple podcast conversation like this. So I can only imagine the profound impact your presence and your conversations and your guidance has on your clients. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on my show. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for your wonderful words. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.